Hi, and welcome to the CAFMA Connect. I'm your host, Fire Chief Scott Freitag, and with me today, and possibly the host today, I don't know. We haven't had that conversation.
I sure hope not. You go ahead, Chief. I'll leave it in your regard.
EMS Captain Brett Poliakon, thank you for being here with me today.
Appreciate it. Thanks for the invite.
Absolutely. We have an important topic that I want to discuss, and we've talked about it before regarding CPR, AED training, the importance of citizen CPR. And for us as an agency, because we're a fire agency, all of our administrative staff, all of our staff, non-ops and ops, of course, are CPR and AED trained. And we had a situation at the warehouse this weekend where one of our administrative specialists was at the warehouse for the Firefighter Angel gift wrapping day. And that afternoon, she went into sudden cardiac arrest. Fortunately, she was surrounded by paramedics and EMTs. Paramedic Russ Smith, Paramedic Travis Smith, and EMT Cammie Hubler were all there. And then Assistant Chief Cody Rose, who's still a medic but not active. I mean, I wouldn't want him working on me. But she collapsed in sudden cardiac arrest. They had about 15 seconds until CPR was started and a minute and a half to 2 minutes until the first shock. It's one of those rare occasions where she was alert and talking when she left for the hospital in the ambulance.
Yeah, she had a really positive outcome. She was in a really lucky spot, kind of an ironic situation. The event is called Firefighter Angels.
It's perfect.
And she was lucky enough to be around individuals that are properly trained, properly equipped. They had basically a full warehouse full of equipment at their disposal to perform life-saving interventions. Not in every situation you have those equipments and all those resources, but in a lot of situations you have proper AEDs. And that's basically what they did is they used an AED in a sense, and were able to defibrillate her to basically take her out of that sudden and unexpected cardiac event. So she was definitely in a lucky position, lucky timing.
Absolutely.
But individuals that may experience this out in general public, there are trained professions, i.e. teachers, law enforcement agencies, stuff like that, that still have equipment and still have the procedures to do that intervention. So.
Right. Well, and I think it's important for the public to know and understand why CPR is so important, and the fact that CPR has changed, because one of the problems a lot of people have had is the mouth-to-mouth resuscitation. Mm-hmm. Talk a little bit about those changes. Yeah,
so one of the biggest studies they've found over the past 15 years was that the hands-only CPR is kind of the term that we use often, where you just do chest compressions only. And that has proven to be a super successful recovery period for, we call it ROSC, or return of spontaneous circulation. And that allows for people to recover a lot more quickly, and those percentages are up. So back before we used to do traditional CPR with mouth-to-mouth, as you mentioned, they would have recovery rates or have ROSC rates at about that single digits, that 5%. With hands-only CPR, and we have a special term in our world called CCR. With those CCR and hands-only CPR, they get numbers that return about 25% with sudden and unexpected cardiac arrest.
Wow, that's pretty good.
That's out of hospital numbers too, which is phenomenal numbers. And really, the training, we've done it from 5 or 6 people to hundreds of people, and you can instruct this type of push for CPR with a big giant crowd.
Right.
For instance, we're holding a training come December 12th at a local event center. We're training their entire staff. I think they have about 50 employees perhaps. And we're training their entire staff of how to do CPR, first aid, AED training, because they have those equipments on their facility. So we're looking forward to that training. It's a big event center in our community, and we want to make sure that they are properly trained. And we take great pride in training them every year in that training.
That's awesome. So AED, automated external defibrillator, that's a game changer in the community and layperson CPR, because now you have access to provide that shock, that defibrillation for someone that's in VFib, VTAC, who is not breathing and doesn't have a pulse at the time.
The devices are becoming more prevalent in the community.
Right.
We actually have a program of ours that's allows for nonprofits to obtain those AEDs at our cost, and we provide that training for their community, if it's a church or a nonprofit business or something to that effect, for free. So we have that program available to our constituents, and allows for them to provide that training for their little fellowship or what have you. I probably receive maybe 5 or 6 calls on that a month in regards to information and looking for potential purchasing those AEDs. Those devices can be a little expensive. They run about $1,500 just depending on the device itself. But like you said, Chief, it's a life-saving device. There are 3 things that we primarily do for cardiac events, and there's multiple things that we do. But the 3 basic ones are start chest compressions early and often.
Right.
We do early defibrillation, which is that AED, like you mentioned, and then we provide medications. So those are kind of our 3 pillars.
Right.
The community at large can do 2 of our 3 pillars with great success. One being the CPR, early recognition of a cardiac event. They can perform high quality, hands-only CPR without the cooties of mouth to mouth, if you would. And then providing that early defibrillation.
And those things are so important to survival, right? In this situation, 15 seconds to CPR starting. Rarely, if ever, do you see that. 2 minutes to the first shock. Rarely do you see that. But in our community today, there's more AEDs in different facilities and buildings. More people can learn CPR and AED. So through training, through CAFMA. So there's opportunities for people to provide that rapid access to CPR and AEDs in a cardiac arrest event.
Yeah, one of the things that AHA and a lot of providers or instructors preach is that time is tissue, as you sure are aware. One of the things that stands out the most is every minute that passes that somebody's in cardiac arrest, their chance of survivability drops 10%. So her having early recognition, 15 seconds of, hey, she's in a cardiac event, we're going to do CPR, she had the best chance of survival. Right. And that's a witnessed arrest. That's with trained professionals that are credentialed and so on and so forth. But those individuals in the community can have that same training, that same awareness, that same exact basically from our EMS division that we train our providers with. They can have that same exact recognition. Right. And that early recognition is a game changer. Early defibrillation has been proven time and time again to be kind of the gold standard of the achievements for CPR. Okay. If you can get that monitor on early and provide that early defibrillation, that is the lifesaver. That's that machine that does that job, that AED, like you mentioned.
Absolutely. And it's not enough just to go through the training. You need to refamiliarize yourself on a regular basis. I know we went down to the hospital in Phoenix where our person is right now with some folks yesterday from administration, and they said, we don't even know if we could get the AED out of the box on the wall because that's not part of the training. But it's one of those things that I think we should start talking to people about. Hey, when you go back, familiarize yourself with where your AEDs are in your facility. Familiarize yourself with how to get the AED out of the box that it's in and then unzipping it and going through it. It's not something that you come in and you learn the skill, you go through the training, and then you just let it sit for a year. And if something happens, you'll be ready to go. Yeah,
so a lot of it has to do with sets and reps is kind of the way we describe it, just that repetition of training. You kind of receive that training, and then every 2 years you go through that same system. It is important to know your equipment, very important. Those AEDs that sit on the wall, they're not dangerous. There's nothing you can do to inherently damage them, to cause harm to yourself and or other people. They only defibrillate, or they only shock situations that are lethal and life-threatening for that individual. I always give demonstrations in class whenever I teach a class that has, I could put it on you sitting here in this chair, and it'll say no shock advised. It won't cause harm to me, it won't cause harm to you, and the machine won't be broken. So get those machines out, open them up, check them out, take a look at the equipment, the pads, check the batteries, check the tools you have at your disposal for those instances. Right. And whenever I teach a class, I try to encourage people, but there's still that apprehensiveness of, I don't know if I should, or is it the right time? Right. I'm not the one that is full knowing, but it's okay. That's where you get that knowledge from.
Sure. And in this situation, our individual, no cardiac history, in good overall health, no warning signs, just felt lightheaded and collapsed. So these, someone can go into sudden cardiac arrest anywhere, at any time, at any moment, and they may not have a history of any ailments or illnesses. So for me personally, I think the importance of citizens knowing CPR, knowing where AEDs are, cannot be overstated.
Yeah, it can happen in any demographic. It can happen from childbirth to the 100-year-old person and beyond. It does become more prevalent when you get more comorbidities associated with it when you start to gain in age. But we had the instances where, DeMar Hamlin's a great example from the NFL.
Oh, yeah.
A professional athlete gets struck in the chest by one individual and he goes into sudden cardiac arrest. So, it could be the most physical fit person. It can be a person that is 12 years old playing baseball, get one single strike to the chest by a baseball, and that can be the instance. So we have to make sure that we are receiving that training, that we're delivering that training to our community. We do offer classes every month at our training center. It's held the first Friday of every month at our training center in Prescott Valley. And the next 2 classes I've noted here would be January 5th. That's our Heart Saver class. We kind of consider that one to be like the general population, general public, everywhere from preschool people to people that work in factories. We teach these classes, and there's no prerequisites, there's no training required, there's no pre-knowledge. You gain all the knowledge, all the materials. If you've had a class before, perfect. If you haven't, even better. We're looking forward to seeing lots of people turn out for these classes. Then the next class would be February 2nd. And that we hold those, again, the first Friday of every month at our training center. You can sign up for those classes at cazfire.gov, or you can give I have to look at our office number here. It's always on my phone.
Right.
So our office number is 928-771-7711.
772-7711. You were really close on that one this time.
I'll have to look at my cell phone next time I look at it. But yeah, that's our office number. I just prefer to go through the website. It's a little easier in that regard.
And what do we charge for those?
The classes themselves run $50, and that includes a certificate for that 2-year period. It also includes a equipment needed. So we have a pocket mask for your protection, and then the material. So you get a book, and then you also get that full day of instruction. All questions are answered. All questions are asked. We try to cover all bases with people. And then that Heart Savers class also develops a first aid element. So we go over splinting, we go over, bug bites, we go over environmental stuff, medical emergencies as well. So it covers a full gamut. So those classes usually are very informative, and lots of people grab a lot of knowledge from them.
That's excellent. And we don't generate revenue from this class. We simply cover our costs.
Yeah, so the costs themselves for the class is $50. Generally, those certs run anywhere from that $20 period, and then we got to pay for instructor time.
Right.
So the cost for the class is just to provide it. It is a community-forward class. It really is driven towards providing that educational element towards our community, and we want them to be full aware. We don't want anybody to suffer these events. We don't want anybody to have any bad outcomes from them. I was just looking up some stuff this morning, some of our runs. On average, we run about 1 cardiac arrest event a day through CAFMA. Wow. Which is a pretty big number. Talking with our local hospital, they see the same number, maybe just a little bit more with our region, and we run about 75% of the calls within. I would say that 66% of our calls within the region, but we run about 1 cardiac arrest event a day through CAFMA.
Wow, that's pretty significant. Well, Brett, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. For everyone out there in the community that is thinking about or has thought about and maybe has not signed up yet, please think about signing up and taking CPR, AED classes, the Heart Saver. Give me those dates again, Brett.
Yeah, the next date is going to be January 5th for the Heart Saver date, and then February 2nd is going to be our BLS provider day.
Great. And you can go to our website, cazfire.gov, to sign up, or you can call the front office at 928-772-7711.
I think you got it.
Brett, thank you for coming on today. I appreciate it. To all of you out there, please make sure to sign up, and I hope you have a great holiday season.